Hi guys, welcome back to Giant Talk, the world's first OKR podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Margaux Joly, Change Manager at And Digital, a technological organisation that is on a mission to close the world's digital skills gap. Today we're going to talk about the benefits of OKR Coach training and how this can impact not only your organisation or the organisation you work in, but you as an individual. Welcome to Giant Talk, Margaux. It's great to have you with us for today's episode. Please can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hey, well, it's lovely to be invited. My name is Margaux. I've been working in the tech industry for over 7 years now and become a bit of an operations generalist after fighting my fear of being a jack of all trades. So I'm French originally. I've been living in the UK now for about 4.5 years, and I've lived across Canada, Australia, and Switzerland beforehand. And and I've always loved, worked in operation roles because I feel like it's building Legos to me. And I really like to work with people and help them put their best skills forward and sort of help them understand how to make sense out of really complicated things.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro. So let's start by talking about OKRs and how you heard about OKRs. What were your first thoughts?
Mm-hmm. So I feel quite early on in my career, OKRs were words that were just thrown about. And for the longest time, they were just buzzwords to me. So in principle, I understood what an objective and a key result were. But I really didn't understand the framework and sort of all of the methodology that was behind it. And I also really didn't understand this whole cascading aspect and focus aspect that was associated to OKRs. I think it was just something that I thought every project needed to have or something like that. And I didn't really understand how it could help company strategize and grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you understood it from, I guess, a higher level, but then not into the specific details of how OKRs are used. So what made you want to take the OKR Coach course and understand OKRs even more? Is it wanting to get more into the detail and how they're used? Talk me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was at a point in my career where I felt like I was ready to sort of expand to the next level. Like I felt like I had gotten quite good at what I was doing, quite good at leading at a small level. And I wanted to sort of understand what it meant to work for the wider company and work for like how to take a company from one place to another. And then, so the more I started understanding OKRs, the more I also realized that there was like a way to write them and a way to, and understanding what key results you needed as well, like was not something that was very clear to me. Mm-hmm. So, and honestly, I'm just a nerd at heart. So any kind of framework that I can understand that helps me put something in, I'm always one to go put myself forward. So yeah, so I think once this course was presented to me, it just felt like exactly what I wanted at that moment in my career. It felt like it was what I needed to take myself to the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just from previous conversations that we've had and from listening to you before, you're hungry to learn more, and I know that you wanted to become that OKR champion in your organisation, and the Be Giants OKR Coach course was perfect for you to be able to do that. So you're a certified OKR coach now, having gone through the course. So what impact has this had on you and your work in your organisation?
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I think it helped me understand a way of writing, putting sort of the strategy, whether it was like at a small project level or understanding it, talking to senior stakeholders at a company and sort of understand that language. And it made me feel a little bit more confident as well when strategy conversations were happening, whether it was with companies using OKRs or not, just to have a bit more like precision in how I talk to them and how I, ask the right types of questions and all of that. And then as well, I think it just gave me a framework to look at my work, right? Whether it was looking at my own individual projects, whether it was looking at how we were working with a team, whether it was looking at cross collaboration among other teams and myself. Like it just helped me apply something, because what's great about OKRs is that it's almost like, it's not loose, but it's like it's adaptable, right? So it's not like super strict, and it only works in a specific lens. It's like it gives you something to talk about and find a middle ground, and also I just like the sort of thought process behind it, between thinking about it from a year and then thinking about it for 3 months, and all of this planning and retrospective aspects. I like how it forces you to pause and reflect, and I think that's made me a better worker in that way as well.
Yeah, and I think, as you touched on that, the OKR framework, yes, it's a framework, but it's very adaptable, and you use it to suit, your teams, your organization. And as we always say, it's a framework where one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
So you have to obviously work it in your own way, and iterate each quarter, and and look back at your OKR. So that was an important point to mention.
And what would you say? Well, oh, sorry. As you're talking, I realized I had an extra comment, which was also what I think is also helpful is that sometimes it's a bit daunting to be like, great, we've got we need to be at X point in 5 years. Like, it's super hard to project yourself there. And so what I liked about it as well is that it's kind of forcing you to look, to have this 5-year thought, but thinking about it, what's the year ahead, right? And it kind of helps you chunk it up, and it makes it a bit more digestible and palatable, I think. And that personally helped me as well a lot, because it demystifies the strategy a bit. It's just kind of like, okay, you can have a gut sense of where you want to go, but tangibly, what are you going to do right now, right? So I think for myself, I found that helpful, but I think as well, if you think about a company and the different levels and knowledge people have, if you're a new employee or someone who's never had to talk about this, it's super hard when someone's talking to you about the 5-year growth plan, right? If it's not something that impacts your day-to-day work, it's really a bit stressful, I find. So I like how it just sort of makes it just a bit chunked up, and you can grasp what's a year ahead. That's much more understandable. You can project yourself to what's in a year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's a good point. And I think also knowing what, like you said, to those people that are new to OKRs or might not fully understand them to begin with, what they do in their day-to-day contributes to that longer, the 5-year plan or the year ahead, as you said, when you chunk it up, and knowing that, you might think that your day-to-day job is just, it's what you do every day, but how does that actually impact the longer term strategy of the business? I think that's really important. I can hear your enthusiasm about OKRs, and I've no doubt that you're able to get others on board. So when you went through the coach course and within your day-to-day role, did you find that you were the one champion, maybe new starters to the organisation, championing OKRs and helping others to understand why you're using them, and sort of how it will help, and kind of getting others enthusiastic about them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had a bit of a roller coaster of a career, in the last year. So I've had to change a few times companies, and therefore land in places where maybe OKRs weren't necessarily used. But every time, though, I feel like now I feel confident about a framework, and there's loads of different types of strategy framework. It's just now I feel comfortable with one. And so when I am talking to people, especially senior stakeholders, I feel like I have more weight in my conversation. And I feel like I generally tend to always end up talking about OKRs, because it's just something I've understood now, and it's just something that makes sense to me. And so, and I think I'm naturally someone who's just been able to bring people on board with me. So I think that part is definitely something I am that's comfortable to me. But yeah, definitely when I was taking the course at the time, my company was trying to sort of trickle them down, and it was very easy to talk about them and bring people on board.
Yeah, it sounds really positive. Everyone needs a Margaux in their organisation. Definitely an OKR coach. And what would you say are the biggest benefits of taking an OKR coach course?
Yeah, so I think I really appreciated the sort of like understanding how to write them. So I think in particularly in the post-pandemic world where it's so easy for people to be like, let's get on a Zoom and let's just chat it out and all. I think not enough people practice clear, concise, engaging writing, because it's so easy, to put someone in a call and talk to them through something and all that. But actually, like, can you convince someone with words is a very different thing. And I think something that has maybe fallen a little bit out of touch in certain elements of how particularly the tech industry has developed. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed the practicing of the writing them, that it's not hard, but there is something to think about when you're doing it, right? There's something to how you write it did make a difference, because again, when it was still just buzzwords, I just thought it was something like an objective that you had to write. I didn't realize that there was an element of engagement, excitement, enthusiasm, and precision as well. Very important, the precision side of it. So that was definitely something that I appreciated the most about the course. And then the second side was the humans of change. So, I'm a naturally empathetic person. I'm lucky that I've gotten to work with a lot of different type of people and different cultures. So I've learned some of these differences just by doing it. But to have, again, this framework and understanding in the side of it of like, actually, how do you give feedback, or like understanding how people's emotions can impact their work is something we all know, but just to sort of have a neutral space to learn and hear about it was super helpful, and learn from my peers from the group as well, their different experiences or their different their different journeys as well was really helpful. And then the two together then it made a lot of sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can't try to motivate your company and put in place a strategy if you're also not trying to adapt and create psychological safety internally. It sounds so obvious, but it is so linked. And so understanding that was also really helpful.
Yeah, I think there are two very good points there, especially, the writing of OKRs. As you said, to begin with, you can just think, oh, it's just an objective. But I think there's definitely a knack to it. And we do get a lot of people, whether it's people on the coach course or clients going through our OKR implementation, a consultancy project, that struggle when it comes to writing their OKRs and need help with the crafting part. And like you said, making sure that they're inspirational and they're motivational. And it's definitely something that it becomes easier, but it's knowing how in the beginning. I think that's an important part of the course. And then the humans of change, you mentioned psychological safety. If you don't have that in place, your OKRs are definitely not going to thrive. So they definitely linked. What was I think you've already touched on it in terms of the humans of change, and I know we spoke before about how much you enjoyed that part of the course. So what was your favourite thing or things about the OKR coach course?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, as simple as it is, learning something new is always fun. And learning something new with other people was really helpful, I thought, for me at least. I think I wouldn't have enjoyed the course as much had I not been with other people who are trying to do the same thing and implementing OKRs in their company. Mm-hmm. I think it would have had a bit less impact if it had just been something that I had to read on my own and practice. So I think it was the communal aspect of it that was super helpful. And then inherently, which is, I guess what Therapy Giant tries to do, like it was like a psychologically safe space, that I was able to just sort of practice and fail. And like definitely at first as well, like it took me a minute to understand like how to crack the like key results and like how to do this. I just needed a moment, right, for it to settle and click in my head. So I think what I just appreciated was that I forget now how long the course was, but there was a guaranteed time in my week where I was taking a step out of my work and just thinking about this. And in some ways, it's like quite relatable to just OKRs as a whole as a company, right? Like you set in place this framework and these strategies, but are you actually taking time out to just ponder and think back, like, is this working? Is it aligned and all of that? So I think just the course in itself was just like a mirroring of good behaviors. And I appreciated having that time and space to just be able to learn that.
Yeah, I liked what you said about the, sort of the communal aspect, because you was on an open cohort, wasn't you?
Yeah.
So you had others outside of your organisation from different organisations where you could talk to within like breakout sessions. And I think we've found, as you've just said, with many other coach grads, that they found that to be really beneficial to come together with others that might be having the similar sort of challenge of coming up with their key results. And of course, it's definitely a safe space, and nothing goes outside of the cohort. But I think, it's definitely a key benefit, as opposed to reading a book and sitting down silently and not having anyone to sort of bounce ideas off or talk to about any challenges or wins that you're having. So I think it's good that it's a group learning experience and a shared learning experience.
Learning is always something that's outside of your comfort zone generally. So it's always nice to just be in a space where you can just say something completely wrong and then, still have and still be able to say it wrong and then learn from why it was wrong.
Yeah, of course. So during your experience of using OKRs and putting them into practice, have you faced any challenges, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still learning how to overcome them. Again, I've had an experience where I've switched jobs recently, so I'm learning how to adapt as well myself to new companies. But in my perspective, from my small time as an OKR coach, the two big issues I've noticed are setting the level 1 OKRs are generally fairly straightforward, because I think generally the senior management of a company has a good pulse on where they need to take it, but then trickling it down to the level 2 and figuring out who needs to be involved, giving the right people an opportunity to be involved as well, and then how you're measuring it, how you're adapting, and not letting it fall as just like business as usual work, and like keeping the engagement and being nimble and adapting them as well. I've noticed is the hardest part for me. And then this might be specific to the tech industry as well, but what I've noticed is particularly for services that have a product and product owners and product roadmap, I've noticed as well that sometimes there's a disconnect between a product roadmap and OKR strategy. And therefore, you can struggle to achieve your OKRs if your product is not adapting to what you're trying to put in place, which sounds simple on paper, but is generally, I think, sometimes fairly hard, because product owners have a lot of different stakeholders they manage. They also have a different way of managing their work if they're working like in a Scrum Agile way, so working in like shorter bursts as well than OKR cycles. And I've found that something that sometimes that is inherently, and I guess it's sort of part of that trickling down to the level 2, is that your senior leadership can have a very clear idea, but maybe they don't have a good sense as well on how their product is developing, what are the roadblocks, and I have noticed that can create a lot of tensions.
And I think as you started to answer, that question, you've said that you're still working on those challenges. And I think that's the key thing to using OKRs. They're not a straightforward process in that you set it, leave it, and that's it. Testing, learning, adapting, and looking at iterations. And I think obviously when it comes to products, as you said, it might be common in the tech industry, but you will, sounds like a pun now, but come across sort of roadblocks and work to overcome them. But yeah, just work to overcome them, and you're aware that there are still sort of challenges along. Yeah, but it's how you.
And I think it's something we talked about in my course. I remember a lot is, for the planning of the level 2 OKRs, like, are you getting the right stakeholders in the room to be able to advise, like, on development of products, software, whatever service, whatever your company is working on. I think that's the crux of it, particularly for companies that are growing super fast. And when you start 20 people, you know everyone. When it's 1,000 people, you don't know anyone as much. So are you listening? Do you know who these people are? I think is a big challenge.
Yeah, and I think that also comes back down to the the cross-functional aspect as well of using OKRs. Like you said, having the correct stakeholders involved at every part of the OKR process. It's really clear to see that you are a real OKR champion and a big advocate of OKRs, and it's lovely to hear you having gone through the TPG Coach course, to hear your thoughts on the course, and also the benefits and what you've got out of it. What do you enjoy most about using OKRs? We've touched on various aspects here.
I think what I enjoy the most is sort of having, not like, I have a methodology now. I don't need to and reinvent the wheel every time. And so then it kind of gives me actually more space to be creative, because I have something that I know how to apply now. So I don't need to think about it anymore, right? And so I think I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record because I've been saying this throughout, but it's just like I that was what I was missing in my career at that moment, was like having a plan. And then now I have this, and so I can adapt it to where I'm at. And so much that I've actually started using this in my personal life as well. Maybe not as strict, but this whole like retrospective is something I was not doing very efficiently in my life. And I think I fled it because I felt like I think maybe it challenged the imposter syndrome, or maybe it challenged the fact that I felt like I wasn't achieving enough or things like that. But actually just sort of trusting the framework, and then just letting yourself just then be attentive and listening and just understanding, and it helped me be a bit more flexible as well, and then how I approach things and how I do it. And so I think it's just like remembering that, just trusting the process and allowing yourself to just then focus on other stuff.
Yeah, and you just reminded me, I was going to mention that when we spoke before, you said that you use them in your personal life. I think you said you're a bit of a OKR nerd.
Yes.
But I think that it's a good idea, and I think it's nice that you've gone through the course and not only use them in your career and in your everyday work, but also can take aspects into your personal life as well. Thank you so much, Margaux, for joining me for an episode of Giant Talk. It's been great to chat to you about your experience using OKRs and your experience on the TPG Coach course. And thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of Giant Talk. To find out more about our Coach Academy, which is recognised by the CMI, or if you'd like to get in touch with us about anything else, you can email growth@therebegiants.com. Thank you.